ICE shooting in Minnesota. A tragic shooting. But was it self-defense? Let's find out.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the What the
Was this self-defense? Because once you strip everything else away,
That's what the ICE agent is saying, that, was his reason and his motive for shooting this woman was that she was trying to run him over. So was this shooting in self-defense? And I am personally under the impression, off of the videos that I've seen, off of other videos of people commenting about it as well and giving their input, that it was not self-defense. This was a listen. You've given guns and power to men who should not hold that type of authority whatsoever. These are masked vigilantes who have the federal government backing them. And they're running rampant in the streets and just doing the most outlandish, egregious, and disgusting shit. Taking the lives of US citizens and then trying to get away with it, essentially. And the people that support him and support, the people on that side of the fence, we know where you stand now. This is unacceptable. Like, the fact that people can even say that this man is correct in stating that this was self-defense is, wow.
outrage, the slogans, the ideology, that's the only question that actually matters. Before we even get to the shooting, we have to deal with something people keep intentionally blurring. This woman was not passively protesting. She was not peacefully demonstrating. She was not exercising her First Amendment right from the sidewalk. She was actively interfering with the federal operation. That distinction matters. The First Amendment protects speech. It protects protests. It does not protect physically impeding law enforcement from doing their job.
Now that I understand. I do understand that completely. But I do feel like the actions taken, all the events leading up to her being shot, was unnecessary. Was she, let's say, doing the most with being in the middle of the road, etc., etc.? Yeah, maybe we can argue that that is true. But nonetheless, what escalated after that was completely unnecessary. You understand? There was no reason to do all of that. That ICE agent released his body cam footage to try and exonerate himself essentially in the public eye and say that, no, this was self-defense. Look at the footage. But even in the footage, you can kind of tell that you did things to make things go a certain way. You manipulated the situation in a certain manner where it would allow you to do certain, take certain actions. I don't like getting political on this channel. This is not what this channel is for. This is not what this channel is about. But when I see wrong, I'm going to call that shit out every time. And this shit is just wrong. It's just wrong. It's fucked up so
At the
much.
moment she began blocking them, at that moment she refused lawful command to move. She crossed from protected activity into illegal conduct. That's not a value judgment. That's just the reality of how the law works. Now, I want to be careful here because this is where people tend to think I'm being dismissive or cold. I'm not. I'm actually willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm not assuming she was evil. I'm not assuming she wanted to hurt anyone. I'm not assuming she woke up that day intending to kill a cop. What I am inclined to believe is something much more human. She was stressed. She was overwhelmed. She did not want to be arrested. Anyone who's ever been in a high-stress confrontation understands this. When adrenaline spikes, your thinking narrows. You don't calmly analyze options. You don't weigh consequences. Your brain locks onto one directive, and hers, get out of here. And that's probably what was happening. She hops into her vehicle, she starts it, and she steps on the accelerator. Not slowly, not cautiously, not in a way that says, hey, let me ease forward. She floors it. Now, and this is important, that does not mean she was thinking, I'm going to run this officer over.
Yeah, and this is the thing. All right, and this is why. Okay, if you are a federal agent, you are the one who has the responsibility in any situation to hold the majority of the weight. Okay, as far as how you go about things. You cannot expect a regular, everyday U.S. citizen to know how to maneuver and how to act in those type of situations, those type of high stress situations. So I do understand maybe on her end, the actions taken were not the best. But at the end of the day, you as a federal agent should be trained, which these aren't. These are just, they just gave people authority and power and just said, go free, do what you gonna do. But if you were actually trained for this actual job, you would know how to de-escalate situations as opposed to escalating them and murdering somebody in broad daylight. These aren't trained federal agents being taught how to do things in accordance to the law. That's not what's going on here. Okay? These are men with little dick syndrome. You know what I mean? Who need a gun and authority to feel strong and powerful, and then end up misusing said power and authority in the most egregious way possible.
Over. I'm actually not inclined to believe that. What I think is far more likely is that she was frantic. Her mind was ahead of her body. Her adrenaline was doing what adrenaline does. She wasn't thinking about throttle pressure or traction or who was standing exactly.
Which again is why I say the federal agent should be the one trained in that situation to handle high stress interactions and de-escalate situations before they get to a boiling point where someone dies. That's not on her. That's not her responsibility. She's a mom. She goes to work every day. She pays her bills, probably barely, and just trying to do the best that she can. You are the federal agent, correct? You should be trained in this situation, but apparently you're not, and you think murdering somebody in cold blood is the right answer in a situation like that. It's crazy.
Where she just wanted to leave, and I understand that. But here's the hard truth that people don't like. Intent does not always control self-defense analysis. Actions do. And her actions, regardless of what she meant internally, communicated something very specific to everyone around her. They communicated urgency. They communicated disregard for obstacles. They communicated, I'm leaving and I'm not stopping. Now, put yourself in the officer's position. It's snowing. There's ice on the ground. Traction is compromised. You're standing.
Perfect. I'm glad you asked. If it's me, if I'm putting myself in the officer's shoes, and he's not even an officer, okay? These aren't, let's not get into that conversation. Anyway, if I'm in the officer's shoes, correct? I'm gonna get the fuck out the way. Okay? I'm just gonna get the fuck out the way. As quick as I can. If you ask me, it looks like you had an agenda that day and you achieved it.
Directly in front of a vehicle. You hear the engine rev. You hear the tire spin. The vehicle starts moving.
Look, perfect. I love this. Look at this. Thank you for even giving me this footage to dissect. Bro, she's starting. This is crazy. Okay. You can see right here, the wheels start spinning. He's already unholstering. He's not trying to get out the way. He's not trying to get out the way. His body has not moved yet. He's still in the same stance he was before she started to move the car. He hasn't moved fearing for his life. Wouldn't the knee-jerk reaction be, let me get the fuck out the way? Wouldn't your bodily instincts be to just move? Instead, you see him start to pull his arm back and start to unholster his weapon, still in the same stance, in the same position he was before she started moving the car. So your intention was to shoot her. Your intention was to shoot that day. You wanted to do something that day. You were trigger happy that day. You were trigger hungry that day. Okay? And all she did was unfortunately give you, in your mind, an excuse to do so and utilize that shit on your hip real quick. You ain't moved. He did not move. Let's rewatch this footage. He did not move.
Ice on the ground. Traction is compromised. You're standing directly
Look. The car is already starting to move, okay?
in front of a vehicle. You hear the
He's
engine.
not moving. He moved a tiny bit with his foot. Look, the foot hasn't even touched the ground yet. He's really getting ready. Right now, he's preparing to grab his firearm, as you can see right here.
Rev. You hear the tire spin.
Look, got the gun in his hand. He has not moved yet. If you were fearful for your life, you would get out the way. That's a car. If you were actually fearful for your life, you'd get out the way. Instead, you unholster, you draw your firearm, and you shoot this American citizen.
The vehicle starts moving. You do not get time to psychoanalyze her mind.
Look, all he did was up it. That's all he did. He ain't move an inch. He just upped it immediately and just started letting off and killed the mother.
You don't get to pause and say, well, maybe she's just panicking, because if you're wrong.
No, I don't like this take. I'm sorry. I don't like this take. Because at the end of the day, if he was fearful for his life, I am genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, under the impression that he would move out of the car's way, as opposed to not moving at all, staying right where he was, and just unholstering his weapon in order to shoot this woman. And let's say even if it to that, the rebuttal to that was, hey, well, I unholstered my weapon to try and make her, to scare her into stopping. You didn't do you didn't do that. You did the opposite of that. You didn't try to scare her. You probably genuinely scared her right before you took her life. Man.
You're dead. And this is the part that people refuse to confront honestly. Even if she didn't want to hurt him, even if she just wanted to escape, if he sidesteps and slips on ice, she's still going. Not because she's malicious, but because panic doesn't stop on command.
So him slipping on ice is worse than her being shot in the head? I ain't gonna lie, I do not like this take. This is, I can't jack that. What the fuck type of shit is that?
Momentum doesn't care about intent, and this brings us to the question nobody wants to answer. What is the officer supposed to do?
Get out the way.
Wait until he's under the
Get out the fucking way. Get out the fucking way. Move, nigga. Is it that difficult? He's like, what is the officer supposed to do? Dickhead, move. Move, bitch. A car's trying to hit you, you move. You run. You get out the way. It's a very simple equation. You don't shoot somebody in the fucking head.
Before he reacts? Is he supposed to confirm her intentions by risking his life? Because that's not how self-defense works. Self-defense is not purely reactive. It's not wait until the worst thing happens and then respond. Self-defense lives in a space just before catastrophe. Preemptive and reactive force overlap. If someone is winding up to strike you with a bat, you don't have to wait for your skull to crack before you defend yourself. If someone is charging you with a knife, you don't have to wait until the knife is in your chest. And if so,
not at one moment did he attempt to move. Let me repeat, not at one moment did he actually attempt to move. The car had already been starting in motion. The car had already been starting to turn. He never even attempted to move. All he ever attempted to do was unholster, up his weapon, and then fire. That's it. He barely moved a foot.
Someone is accelerating a 5,000-pound vehicle while you're standing in front of it. You don't have to wait until you're on the pavement underneath it. That's the space this incident lives in. Now, let's be honest. This is not a perfect self-defense scenario. It is imperfect as hell. It's messy. It's chaotic. It's happening in seconds, not minutes. I can understand someone saying, maybe he could have stepped to the side. And to a degree, he did, but she still made contact with the vehicle.
To a degree, he did? Nah, bro. I can't agree with that. We're seeing the footage. Do people think we're dumb? Do people think that we're dumb? I understand the society today is very, very dumb. I can agree with that. I can agree that most people have an IQ of a fucking... Let me relax. Okay, I can agree with you that most people are sheep. Most people are dumb. But for the analytical minds out there who tend to dissect everything in detail, you're telling me that we're not seeing what we're seeing? That this man never moved a fucking inch out the way? That he stood there in the same stance that he was in before she started moving the car and all he did was unholster his weapon? There was no alternatives to that? That's what you're trying to tell me. That's what you want me to believe. All right.
And I can also understand someone saying maybe he could have just let her go and dealt with it later. Yeah, assuming everything was perfect. I see all of those arguments and I understand where people are coming from, but self-defense is not about perfection. It's about what a reasonable person would do when facing a potentially lethal threat under bad conditions.
A reasonable person would get out the way. A reasonable person would get the fuck out the way as quickly as possible. Now, I would understand, just playing devil's advocate, I would understand you get out the way, your partner fires in order to stop the vehicle. Something along the lines of that would make more sense to me than you not moving a fucking inch and just letting off. Just letting the weapon off completely. Just fuck it. That doesn't make sense to me. You're a trigger hungry little bitch. And someone unfortunately gave you the opportunity to pull your trigger. That's all this is. You had all intentions of shooting somebody that day. You had no good intentions in mind that day.
A vehicle becomes a deadly weapon the moment it is used this way. It doesn't matter whether the person driving means for it to be one. A 5,000-pound object moving towards a human being on ice is capable of killing them. Full stop. And the officer didn't get the luxury of hindsight. He didn't get slow motion replay. He didn't get commentary. He didn't get to read her mind. All he had were actions. And her actions communicated danger. This is what people mean when they say self-defense isn't clean. It's not cinematic.
No, danger, actual danger in that case is she's in her car and she has a firearm in there and she intends on using it. That's actual danger. Her turning her car to the right, already being in motion to move, and you not getting out the way, that sounds like a dumb move on your part. That sounds like a stupid move on your part. The knee-jerk reaction should be get out the way. Instead, you stayed. I keep repeating the same thing, but it's because it's that baffling to me. You stayed in the same exact position, in the same exact location, and all you did was unholster, up it, and fire. No attempts, no knee-jerk reactions to get out the way. Your knee-jerk reaction was to get your fucking gun and pull the trigger. That's what your knee-jerk reaction was, not to get out the way. Crazy.
It's not morally tidy. It doesn't come with certainty, but it does come with responsibility on both sides. Her panic does not make her evil, but it also does not make her actions harmless. And the officers...
And no one is saying her actions are harmless. I'm not saying that she was completely... I'm not saying she was an angelic being in this situation and she did no wrong. No, there was a lot of stupid decisions on her part as well. Why are you even in this situation to begin with? You have children. Let's just be real. Let's hold everybody accountable. You have children at home waiting for you. What the fuck are you doing here? Go home. Okay, so it's like everybody here just did stupid shit, but unfortunately only one person lost their life. Man.
Response does not have to be flawless to be justified. This is why I keep coming back to the same question over and over again. Strip everything else away. Not politics, not emotion, not ideology. Was the officer facing a reasonable possibility of serious bodily harm or death in that moment? If the answer is yes,
the answer is no. He should have got out the way, which he had a plethora of time to do. He had enough time to grab his gun, up it, and fire. In that same exact time frame, he could have took a few steps, matter of fact, a few hops, matter of fact, a few jumps away in the opposite direction and got out the way completely.
Yes. And based on the facts, it is. Then this is self-defense. It's not perfect. It's not something to celebrate. It's not something anyone should be happy about, but it's still self-defense. What happened here was a tragedy. A woman lost her life, and that matters.
The officer was not in the right for doing that. At all. At all.
Is celebrating the fact that he had to shoot that woman? Come on, people, let's be people. But tragedy does not automatically mean injustice. Sometimes tragedy is what happens when fear, panic, and bad decisions.
No, this is untrained vigilantes running rampant on the streets under the Trump administration, deciding who gets to live and who doesn't, essentially. That's what this is. This is a mess. This is a mess. This is a mess. And the fact that they're just saying it's all okay, that she was in the wrong and he's completely innocent, and this was apparently self-defense. What a way to kick off the year.
Tragedy is what happens when fear, panic, and bad decisions collide in a matter of seconds. And pretending otherwise doesn't make us more compassionate. It just makes us dishonest about how violence, stress, and human beings actually work. That's the conversation we should be having. Not the easy one, the honest one.
No disrespect to you, Colin. I I don't know how to say your name, brother. I'm sorry. But this is how I feel. This is what I think. Yeah, I can't agree with anything you said there. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm not trying to be a contrarian. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to me. This woman lost her life. There's children in this world who no longer have their mother, and it's all because of the decisions that a man made in the moment to not get out the way, but to shoot a woman who was just trying to get out of that high stress situation. You know, she's not a trained officer, federal agent, the way you should be, who has the capability of de-escalating situations. That's your job, not hers. But fuck do I know? All right. God bless that woman. God bless her soul. God bless her family. I hope that those children are able to find peace at some point in their lives. I know that right now it's probably inconceivable to ever do so, but man, this world is a wicked place. I'll see you guys on the next one, all right? Take care.